36.
36. We're the Adelaide 36ers in this episode. That's incredible.
We are currently Cleveland and Celtics Shaq. 36.
It's the best version of Shaq.
The essentially ring chasing legend Shaq, which he didn't need to, but when you're at the end of the career, why not?
Exactly. So Adam Silver looks like now we're going to be asking him out. Adam, would you like to come and join us and introduce the first draft pick?
With the first pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Zachary Rizache.
Oh, so the first draft pick that we're going to be discussing, because number one, so Phil, we went through and we did our top 7 and we had quite a good little back and forth with accuracy. So we're going to be going through and talking about each draft pick and what it means to those teams. And did we think they got it right or did we think they got it wrong? So starting with Zachariah Ricochet, as he's called in France. What did you think when you saw him go number 1?
Not overly surprised when I heard that Alexander Sarr turned down the Hawks' request for a workout. So I thought that was quite telling. I'm not sure what that was about. One could only assume it was because of the incumbent Onyeka Okongwu that was there, as well as Clint Capella. The moment I heard about that, we knew Sarr wasn't going 1. Other than that, I don't know a lot about him, but the hype in the days leading up certainly just built more and more and more. And it sounds like he's a really a good talent. The thing I like about it, he seems to fit the team in terms of he can slot right into that athletic wing position. They've traded away AJ Griffin to the Rockets on a draft day deal as well for a second round pick or something like that. So I think that signals probably their intent to have him in the rotation from the get-go. I mean, you don't pick a guy number 1 and not have him part of the rotation from the get-go, right? Like, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, because in looking at him, he's 6'9", 215 pounds and playing in France. And one of the comments there that I made when I saw it, what a beautiful shot he's got. Just a natural looking shooter and a natural looking player. And I think great to see another two-way guy getting in, plays defense, plays offense well, and will suit the Hawks system. And I think with Sarr, and touching on that, with him refusing to work out with the Hawks, he did himself a bit of a disservice because they could have traded Capella and Onyeka Okongwu for a lot more. And they could have actually built the team with Sarr in there. But hey, like you said, a lot's come out. But Ricochet looks the goods, man. I'm quite happy with that. I will be trying to get some of his rookie cards next year. But the number 1 pick leaves me a bit wanting. I think this is the best role player draft that's ever been.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really say for sure who 100% should have gone number 1. I think there were probably 5 or 6 guys that easily could have gone number 1 without there being too much gasping from the audience. Like, this is one of those drafts that sort of reminds me of, might have been 2013. There's been a couple of different drafts that it was kind of like, it was a bit of a meh draft, and then it wasn't until maybe 3 years later where you really saw the cream rise to the top, and then you realize, then everyone was like, oh yeah, I can't believe they picked him in that position. And I'm like, oh well, revisionist history. I mean, it's a Captain Hindsight. It's so easy to say that once everything's been said and done. I'm neither here nor there with it. So now let's move on to number 2.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
At number 2, Alexander Sarr, coming from also France, but also coming from Australia, playing for Perth in the NBL, which is awesome. Shout out to our NBL buddies out there and NBL listeners that listen. How good is it to see a prospect that's gone through? This is the highest position someone's been drafted from the NBL in the NBA draft. So
just beats out LaMelo.
Yeah. Shout out to Alexander Sarr, and we are going to get there to a number 1, I feel, eventually. But very cool. Like you said, you've touched on it already. He's a big body, athletic, great defender. Not like a deep 3-point shooter or anything like that, but he doesn't need to be. He's got a role to do. And he's going to fit right in at the Wizards. I think he'll mix in well with Kuzma. Jordan Poole, maybe not works well, but with Bilal Coulibaly, he will mix well. It's a good choice. I think Wizards have made the right option with that.
Yeah, I think teaming a couple of Frenchies together, I think that's quite nice as well. It'd be nice for Coulibaly as well to have to have a fellow Frenchman there, which I think is always smart. Keep him happy. He was a bit of a, speaking of Koulibaly last year, the only reason he was discovered was because of all of the scouts that were looking out for Victor. And then he ended up getting taken quite high by the Wizards last year, and he's turned into a pretty decent player. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think Sarr is very raw offensively. He's got no offensive game, really. And the one real interesting thing that I was reading pre-draft is his rebound rate is really poor for a 7-footer. They had him, was it something like 12% rebound rate versus a guy in the NBL that was projected to go in the 20s, had a rebound rate of 20%. So that's something that he'll need to work on. He's obviously very athletic, very raw, and a great shot blocker. So he's not going to a team that's going to rely on him to be a 20-10 guy like Victor was straight away, or even a 10-10 guy. I think the Wizards are in rebuild mode. They're not in any hurry to contend, so that it puts them in a good position. Now, number 3, I think this here is where you and I had I think we both picked 1 and 2. This is where we both had differing opinions with 3 and 4. So I'll let you announce it and we can talk about it.
Oh, so number 3 came in Reed Shepherd. And when we were talking about it yesterday, I think there that both teams, and this is one of the points that I'll firstly make forward, I think we came to a good consensus about it, is that the Rockets, I think, did make a bit of a backward choice there. I thought they would have gone for more defense because they're a defensive team, but they've gone for a bit of an offensive weapon with Reed Shepherd. So, like, Reed looks like a solid prospect, and he looks like he could really heat up, and maybe that's the reason why the Rockets have got him. Quite happy with that. Good Kentucky boy. You can't go wrong with a Kentucky or a Duke or a UConn prospect now. And I think they're definitely, they've made a good choice there, but they've compared him to Grayson Allen, but I don't think that's an accurate description. I thought he'd be, because he's only a 6-footer, or 6'2", sorry. So yeah, small guy, good shooter, good option. The Rockets are deep now. When I looked through the roster this morning, they've got 10 decent guys because they've traded up with AJ Griffin as well. What was your take on getting Reed, mate?
Yeah, well, Reed was one of those guys that arguably could have gone first. He sort of formed that top 5 category. I had him going to the Rock just based on a bunch of stuff that I'd been reading and sort of watched about how ready he was to contribute. He's got the right attitude. I think he considers himself more of a point guard than a shooting guard, but I think something develop as time goes on. But I think he looks really, really nice. I would have been very happy if he fell to the performance at 6. Just like, I think that's one way to always like think about a player. Like, would you have been happy had he gone to your team? And it was like, yeah, and it's like, yes, yeah, no, absolutely, I would very much been happy. And I think, yeah, that Grayson Allen comparison is something that media personality and scouts do, right? They only tend to compare certain types of players with certain types of players for whatever reason. And Grayson Allen, maybe they were comparing him because of their shooting nous, but Grayson Allen, the grub, and he's a bit bigger. So
maybe same haircut. Looks like
white. I think it's skin color. That's probably what they'll go right.
Yeah, they're like, who looks like him the most? Oh, on this color, I won't play color chart. I'll pick that. Who does he look like most on this lineup? Oh, okay, it's Grayson. So number 4, now another one there that we went flip-flopped over, but number 4 that we had Stephon Castle. Now, big move. Spurs got him, and I thought the Spurs would have gone for a pass-first point guard or a decent shooting point guard. So Stephon looks more of a defensive weapon, great elite perimeter defender, and I think there he's a bit of talent. Came off winning a title with UConn, and just looks the goods. He looks very composed. And looks to have something special about him. I think he's going to be pretty awesome with Wemby, but I went with Reed Shepherd at 4. You went with Stephon Castle, so you're 4 for 4. So let's hear it, champ.
Yeah, I think he's a dog. He makes the yet to play an NBA game dog squad for my mind. I think that winning 2 titles back to back and then going to be coached under Pop, it's just a brilliant environment for him. It wouldn't have been terrible. The Rockets gone Castle and the Spurs gone Reed. I just think Reed was probably just overall a better talent. I think that's why he ended up going a spot ahead of him, more rounded. I think he gets a lot of steals. He gambles a lot though because of his size, but no, Stephen Castle, I think he's going to slot right in there. It'll be interesting to see though what the Spurs do, because I do agree. We thought, spoiler alert, that they solved all of their guard problems with their 8th pick, but a certain trade happened, and
I
that,
know.
that changed that thought process. So very strange, very bizarre. Anyway, we'll get to that shortly. But anyway, I think we should move on to pick number 5. This is one of the more head-stretching picks.
Yeah, Ron Holland, the second, not the first one, the second one, because we don't want to mix those two up. At 6'7" and 197 pounds, been playing for the G League at night. Quite a talent, isn't he? Like, I was surprised. Yeah, I almost fell off my chair and I was like, very similar player to the Thompson brothers, I felt.
Yeah, the pre-draft comparison was Jalen Green. If you were to compare Jalen Green's Ignite numbers to Holland's, I think Holland's was slightly superior. They reckon in this draft, Jalen Green would have gone 1. And so Ron Holland, they were talking about, he could have gone 1 as well because he's an extreme athlete and he's very, very talented, still a bit raw, has a bit of a rough 3-point shot. And so this is where the debate comes in. New GM at the Pistons, Tragdon Landon, they now have Cunningham, who's an extreme talent, doesn't have a big 3-point shot. You've got Thompson, doesn't have a 3-point shot. You've got Jaden Ivey, he doesn't have a solid 3-point shot. Now you've drafted Holland, who doesn't have a solid 3-point shot. So you've got 3 or 4 athletes that are all about 6'8", that classic tweener build, which is now coveted. But none of them can consistently shoot threes. So like poor old Cade, he's out there. Like, who am I supposed to give the ball to? How are we supposed to stretch the floor? How are you supposed to get the best out of your number 1 pick? So great athlete, but it could just be one of those situations where it was just great player, wrong situation, which it's such a shame when that happens. It happens so often in the NBA. Guys end up going to the wrong spot and they don't get the most out of them until later on in their career. So, but anyway, that's classic Pistons. You do feel for them. 3 picks at number 5 in 3 years in a row.
3 failures. No, I had down on my notes, I put there, I was expecting them to get a stretch 4. So
Buzelis, right?
Yep, Buzelis. And you had Buzelis as well, yeah. So
yep.
Expecting to have someone there that can shoot the 3 and also can space the floors, and they've gone for another like player. I don't know what's happening there, but at number 6, mate, this is your time to shine. I think we both had massive smiles on our faces. Firstly, number 6, bro. Go ahead. You take the moment.
Yeah, well, I'll probably butcher his name. Tidjane Saloon out of France. So the 3rd Frenchie taken in this draft. They say he's the youngest player in the draft, and he also is the player that has the most potential, is what I've been hearing. So it was so frustrating because classic Hornet fans, much like last year, booed when they picked Brandon Miller, egg on your face now. And then same time this year, it's like they booed. I'm like, come on, guys, let's put things into perspective. It's pick number 6. It isn't a top 3 pick. And it's as you said before, it's a role player draft. So why are you booing a pick that's at the 6th spot who has the most potential in a draft where there seem to be so many beauties in the eye of the beholder picks? There are no real consensus. So consensuses. So anyway, I didn't hate it. He's very talented. He's basically he seems like he's a very similar player to Brandon Miller. Probably Brandon Ingram as well, right? It's that same sort of 6'7", 6'8". Yeah, he can stretch the floor, super athletic. So very interesting to see how they all coexist. But yeah, definitely a great pick in terms of the potential that he does have. It was worth swinging for. Maybe gone a couple picks higher than what he was projected. I thought the Hornets needed to get some big man help, so I wouldn't have been mad if they went for Klingon. I would have been mad if they went for Eddie. Buzelis was also projected to go to the Hornets as well, so
yeah.
and the other guy actually who ended up falling way down the line was Dalton Connect. He was projected to go to the Hornets because it fills a need with 3-point shooting, but yeah, I don't hate it. It was someone that actually you were talking about beforehand that you would love the Blazers to pick at 7.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got one over you, having picked one before.
Just like last year. Hey, reverse draft. I had my notes. I had most similar to Zachary Ricochet, but younger.
Right.
And I thought it's a good comparison, James. Good notes at the time. Well done. So another Frenchman. That French Olympic team is going to be dangerous. But we'll move on to the next one because it's my turn to shine. Number 7. I was so happy, and exactly the same. I wanted TJ Saloon to come to the Blazers, but hey, that's all right. That's how the cookie crumbles. And instead, I got Donovan Clingan. I'm real happy. I'm real stoked.
Who?
Donovan Klingon. Sorry, Klingon. I can say it properly. I need to use a Klingon reference, like Yardrak Madradrak. I don't know Klingon. I just made up that word, like a made up language.
I say I'm not a Trekkie.
But I think he's good on both ends. He's also going to help that pick and roll game. And when you look at it, you've got a combination with the decent center point guards now. 2 combinations. You could have your starters as Simons and Ayton, and then you could have your backup as Scoot and Klingon. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. And then you've got Shaden Sharp in the mix and a few others. I was a bit gutted they didn't go for a decent shooting wing, but I think having Ayton always needed that as well. He's always needed a decent backup center because he's taking majority of the minutes.
And he's not a big defensive guy either. So
and so Klingon is going to come on in those moments and just shoot away the opposition and go into warp drive.
Is it a Star Wars, not Star Trek reference?
Star Trek reference. So number 8.
Yes, this was the interesting one, Jimmy. Let's not break with how we've been going. You announce it and I'll talk to it.
At number 8 in the NBA draft, Robert Dillingham from Kentucky.
But you can't go wrong with a Kentucky guard. They are very talented. However, moving forward, I think we're going to have to change it to Arkansas guard because we now know that, well, it's happened for a wee while, of course, but Calipari has left Kentucky and he's now at Arkansas. But he was there repping for Dillingham. He sounds like he's a small guard, but just super quick, absolute heater, super scorer. It just made sense that the Spurs picked him up. They need a good playmaker. They need someone that can complement Wemby. And then all of a sudden, traded to the Timberwolves. And the Timberwolves traded, I think it was a 30 and a 31 first round pick. And it was like, whoa, hold on a sec. Oh, like, hurt my head there for a second because I'm like, oh yeah, I suppose this is the 24-25 season coming up. Oh, that's terrifying. We're already nearly halfway through the 2020s. So yeah, so a couple of future first round picks for him. And so teaming him with Anthony Edwards is like, that is a dangerous duo. Conley seems to be the logical move there. So yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to have to talk about how he's going to fit in with the Timberwolves rather than the Spurs. That's where he was traded to. I think the Timberwolves, I mean, they didn't have a draft pick at all, and they picked at 27, which isn't the worst. They obviously wanted to add something to their team because that was probably an area that let them down and went a little bit missing in the finals, in the playoffs. So getting someone in there just to take a bit of pressure off, who's bit of a wild card.
And I agree with you with fitting in with that Spurs game. I thought he would have been the perfect pick and roll player. And that's how Pop likes to work. And he would have been the perfect sort of Tony Parker type player. And with a speed and quick to the rim, getting around Wembanyama. But also, he'll also fit in with the Timberwolves because they'll be able to play that style of play with Cat and Rudy Gobert. So I think good option. Popovich knows his stuff, and they'll go to the free agency because they've got a lot of cap room from what I can see. Good, yeah. Pop's smart. He knows what he's doing. But next one up, number 9. Now, I am big on this chap, Zach Edey to the Grizzlies. I think he's an upgrade on Steven Adams in terms of offensively. Defensively, he's a downgrade on Steven Adams. So I think there he might free up Ja because now those other players over the last year have gotten better. Desmond Bain's gotten better. Gigi Jackson's had a year in the NBA, and now Zach Edey's going to come in quite raw, big, and strong. Excited for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I'm definitely not as high on Edey as you are. I'm just not as much of a fan. But yeah, you can see him fitting in there. Interesting to see how he fits with Triple J. Does Triple J move into a 4? role. I think Edie, I don't think he's known for his defense. That was more like Klingon was more of the defensive center. So that could work really well with former defensive player of the year with Triple J. So not a terrible pick there by the Grizzlies, but I mean, he's maybe gone a few picks higher than what he was potentially projected. So could have been a reach, but again, it's a role player draft. It's a beauty in the eye of the beholder draft. So how can you really say that anyone reached with absolute certainty? Because, I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
Number
the
10, this
perfect role player draft. Like Zach Edey is perfect. Just is. I'm so happy with this.
Yeah.
Number 10. Yes, the Jazz drafted Cody Williams.
I'm happy with this pick. Jalen Williams, J-Dub's brother, who obviously plays for the Thunder. So yeah, Cody Williams. So 6'7". He's got lots of talent. I think great pickup for the Jazz. Cody Williams. He's lots of potential. Young, athletic, good head on his shoulders. If he's anything like his older brother, then the Jazz have got themselves a really solid pick. And again, it's a number 10 pick in a role player draft. You can only argue that there's upside.
Yeah, 100%. And a 7'1" wingspan as well on him. Yeah, I fully agree with your points there, Phil. I think that he maybe could have gone higher in the draft. You've been talking about him for a while, being a bit of a star out there in the NBA world. So I mean, it's a great option, and I think he could pretty much mark one all the way through to 5 because of that wingspan. That's going to create problems.
He's a bit slight would be the only issue there. So if he put on a little bit more size, absolutely. But I think his draft combine and interviews, I think, technically let him down a little bit. That's why he slid just a few spots. But yeah, not the end of the world. Now, number 11.
Chicago Bulls picked Matas Buzelis, 6'9" from Lithuania, from G League Ignite. Really surprising how far he dropped. I think you touched on it there with Cody Williams. Was an interview thing because this guy's got a bit of talent and should have gone a lot higher.
You're very talented, very bouncy, but I think there's still a few question marks over some consistency with his shooting and defense. The real head scratcher here, especially from a Bulls perspective, is who did they just trade for?
Josh Giddey.
Giddey. And these guys are basically prototypes of each other. I think Buzelis is probably more athletic. But otherwise, you've just traded for this guy who's going to essentially has made it known that the Thunder weren't going to have him in the starting rotation and he wants to be a starter. So that basically means the Bulls have to start him. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Buzelis obviously going to be coming off the bench, but maybe they don't.
Well, maybe this is about
a future starter. I mean,
well, maybe this is about production. So, like, as soon as Giddey comes off, it's a like-for-like replacement. Maybe that's what it is. And if Giddey gets injured, there's no downside of having him on the court, no downside of having him off the court.
Yeah, or suspended for no particular reason whatsoever.
Wouldn't be able to think of a thing that he could be suspended for.
Yeah, no.
So at number 12, moving into that, the Thunder with one of their, I think now they're down to 38 draft picks now with getting rid of this one. Nikola Topic. Now, I also had him to go higher. Because I love my European players. I'm big on them, and I've got a few that I follow in the NBA. And 6'6" guard, smooth handles, 15.9 points a game, 5.9 assists, and 3.5 rebounds, playing in the other leagues around the world. Now, I'm surprised he dropped this far. I had him a little bit higher. I think I was looking at around about 8 or 9-ish.
I'll tell you why. Partially torn ACL. Bang.
There we go.
That scares teams, right? ACL injuries aren't what they used to be in terms of like guys recover and they come back and they act as if it never happened. But obviously when you're having it that young, I think that scares a lot of teams away. And again, you could turn this into a drinking game, role player draft. You don't have to reach. You don't have to go for him if there's a bunch of other people that you could swing on. So I think it's a classic Thunder pick as well. The Thunder know how to draft. The Thunder know how to pick.
Yeah, it's 6'6". And have you read his comparison? Compares to Luka Doncic and Goran Dragic. What a perfect merger of two beautiful human beings could you get?
But also, he compares to a European who's white.
What?
Like, it's brain numbing. Anyway,
It is.
number 13.
Well, the Kings for this one drafted Devin Carter from Providence, 6'2" guard. Surprised they went with a guard.
Well, they have just traded Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vesnikov to the Raptors for Jalen McDaniels, a wing. So they needed to bring in a replacement. I think Davion Mitchell came into the league and he was a dog, a defender. He was brilliant. And then this last year disappeared off the face of the earth. I don't know what happened. So fell out of rotation, fell out of favor. Not entirely sure. But yeah, Mike Brown, not keen on him anymore. So in comes Devin Carter. So very interesting to see how he goes. The Kings, I like the Kings. Both of us are a fan of Keegan
Murray.
And yeah, I thought they might have gone with a big man, but
yeah,
yep, they've gone way of guard. It all makes sense now because they've done that trade. I don't really have anything more to say about him.
Yeah, I was hoping a center, and then you could move Sabonis into power forward. But yeah, I agree. I think it's a good option. He looks all right. Like nothing stands out for me. Nothing doesn't stand out for me. And another solid role player going to another decent team. So at number 14 was my boys again, the Blazers. Now they had the traded away to the Wizards, so it's now technically a Wizards trade for Bub Carrington or Carlton Carrington. Carlton always makes me laugh. The Fresh Prince, I'll call him. 6'4" guard from Pittsburgh. Have you had any thoughts on him, Phil? I've had a brief look at him, and
yeah, this is the part of the draft where my knowledge starts to lack more and more unless it's to do with the team that I'm actually keen on. So no view to him.
Yeah, seems all right. Looking at the shooting splits, 49%, 38%, 86%. So not too bad. 13.8 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Another good role player, filling in the bench, maybe a 8, 9, 10 spot. In the NBA 2K, I might chuck him in if a player gets fouled out. Not bad. Next one we had was, now this team always gets it right.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter where they are.
I think they've really nailed it here from what I can hear.
The Heat. Kal-El, like Superman.
Yeah.
Kal-El.
Khalil Weir.
Khalil Weir at number 15, 7-foot center from Indiana. I'll let you start, Phil, because I talked about the last one. They've got it right again, eh?
Yeah, 100%. It's a need. Not only is it a need, but it wasn't a reach. It was someone who's going to fit him there perfect. I mean, you could argue you could just about select anyone, and just having Pat Riley there and the perennial coach of the year, Eric Spoelstra. He's a brilliant coach, and yeah, I think they drafted brilliantly last year. They got an absolute steal with Jaime Jaquez, and again, I don't think necessarily you can't say this is a steal based on how we've been approaching this draft so far, but they need a center. They've just signed Bam to $166 million 3-year extension. Bam's brilliant. He guards 1 through 5. Like Bam is just elite. So having another really solid big man there is something that the Heat needed to do, and getting a guy in the lottery, just outside the lottery like that, solid. There was probably one guy that was expecting to go on the first round that fell into the second round that could have ended up going there, like Kyle Filipowski. I'm real high on my Duke big men, but wasn't to be. Obviously didn't fit into the Heat mold of player. But yeah, it'll be real. I'm just excited to see how he goes because just the Heat know how to utilize their young talent.
Thank you for listening to the Basketball Edition podcast. Please make sure to follow us on our socials, basketball_edition_WMSA. And if you are wanting to have a chat with us, please send us a message and we'll get back in touch with you. Make sure to follow us on Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube, all good podcasting streaming channels. Thank you.